On PuckTime, powered by WagerTalk TV, and I'm back. I had someone comment yesterday, did Andrew pass away? Did Andrew get fired? No, he is back, and I am pumped up for the playoffs, guys. I want to thank everybody for helping me out, for filling in. Buster, Brian Leonard, Carmine for doing extra work. So thanks a lot to everybody, and I am back, and I will not be missing a show until the last day of the playoffs. So cannot wait. I got Don Buster with me here today. We are wishing Carmine a fantastic trip, and we'll see him at the end of the first round. We have 3 games today, all with playoff implication to go over. We're going to talk Ducks, Wild, Utah Blues, Vegas, and Calgary, and we'll get some best bets at the end of the show, of course, on $5 Tuesday. Buster, before we get into the main games today that we're going to break down, there's a lot of things I could talk about to catch up on the week and a half that I missed, but we only have 30 minutes to go with. So we'll start with this. The Montreal Canadiens were projected to be a potential lottery team to start the year. A couple weeks ago, they were like 80% chance they could make the playoffs. All they've needed in their last 3 games was 2 points to solidify themselves a playoff spot, and they just can't do it. How are you, Buster? Good to see you, man. What do you think about last night?
Well, with that little start there, Andrew, you know how I'm doing. I'm not sleeping at all. And I did say, I forget, either Thursday or Friday, I had mentioned when Carmine was saying how basically Montreal was in playing Washington. And I said, you know what? Seen this stuff before. They're not in until they're in. I'm not sure exactly what I said, but you go back in the tape. I wasn't, I'm one of these guys. When it's done, then okay. And here we are, right? So I was a little bit surprised that they lost last night. Yeah, it's tough, but they just have to win against Carolina, and the Carolina shouldn't have anybody playing. But yeah, it's the NHL, so that means nothing. They're going to have some hungry guys from maybe down on the farm playing. So yeah. Needless to say, Andrew, I'm a little nervous, and then people will probably say, Buster, well, what are you so nervous about? Because even if Montreal makes it, they're going to get killed by Washington. We'll see. We'll see about that, because if I remember right, I'm getting a little long in the tooth, but I remember Washington years ago was a number 1 seed, and I'm pretty sure Montreal team beat them as an 8 seed, but maybe I'm wrong about that. So anyways, Andrew, that's where I'm at today.
You could be right. You could be right about that. I'll tell you, I missed the first period of yesterday's game. I was on my last connecting flight, and I was super excited to watch Ivan Demidov make his debut for the Canadiens. And I land and find out not only does he get a point, but he gets an assist and a goal in the first period. It's tough to see them go up 2-0 and not win that game. But besides the fact, we're bringing that up, number 1, because we're Canadiens fans, but number 2, because the only other team that could take that spot in the wild card 2 spot are the Columbus Blue Jackets. And so the interesting thing is the last 2 games, the Canadiens have lost in overtime or shootout, meaning they've earned 2 points in their last 2 games combined. So the only difference now is that before Columbus had to win their last 2 games, and that's it. Now Columbus has to win their last 2 games in regulation time. So today they are playing against the Philadelphia Flyers, and they play against the New York Islanders in the last game of their season. Do you have any thoughts on this one here? Just real quick before we dive into the 3 we're going to talk about during the show.
Yeah, Andrew, of course, going through the whole schedule last night to find my games, I looked at this game, and you know what? There's a little bit of confidence for us maybe here, Andrew. I'm just going to put out a couple points here. It is 3rd game in 4 nights for Columbus. They've got a lot of pressure on them to win. Philadelphia's been playing pretty decent hockey. It's their last home game for Philadelphia. I like that. That could come into play here. And you know what? Philadelphia's beat them 2 out of the 3 games. The game they lose, it goes to a shootout. So with Philadelphia, I know everybody's saying, okay, sure, Buster, wishful thinking. But I'll tell you right now, I'm telling everybody out there, I wouldn't be betting Columbus minus 160, 170 or whatever they are. That's for sure, because this is going to be a nail biter if you ask me. And you know what, brother? Let's just hope we're on the right side of this one.
Well, as we always say, must win does not mean will win. And the good news for the Canadiens, they put themselves in a spot where not only did they have to win games, but the team chasing them really had to win those games. Look, I think that if you play both dogs, Islanders and Flyers, you go 1-1 at the very least. I don't think Columbus can win both games. However, their offense has looked strong, so that is one thing to kind of look at right now. But Philadelphia does feel like that team that could end the season with kind of a spoiler type of note, very similar to what Chicago did last night to the Canadiens. So I would take a look at that first period play for the Philadelphia Flyers. I think we're going to actually see Philadelphia come out strong at home. We're going to see the Columbus Blue Jackets have to fight some adversity. So taking a look at that first period money line, that way we're kind of just picking early on in the game and seeing if the Columbus Blue Jackets can face adversity and have success that way. But plus 115 is the number I got in that one. We'll see what ends up happening, Buster. Also worth noting, as I mentioned, because they can't go to overtime, if the game is 3-3, you will see an empty net pulled potentially for Columbus. 2-2, same thing. They need a regulation victory. So just worthy of mentioning. I'm sure we'll talk about this potentially later on in the show. But let's jump into three games with meaning here as well. The Ducks and the Wild will be our first game that we'll take a look at here. I'm seeing a sub minus 280 price here on this Wild team, but the total is 5.5 in this hockey game. Buster, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, Andrew, Minnesota just needs a point tonight and they make the playoffs. I got to believe that they're going to get that point tonight. Again, though, so if I believe that, how do we bet this game? That's what it comes right down to. Or do we bet this game? Well, we believe that they will, they're going to lay, do you want to lay 270, 280? No way, because, a team like Anaheim, they may be just a little dangerous and they've got nothing to play for, right? So anything can happen with that. Now, regulation line, it's 2-1. 2-1. Can't lay the regulation line either. The puck line for the full game is only a minus 105, minus 1.5. That might be a play. I don't blame anybody for playing that. But what I like here is I like that first period, the old Buster special. First period minus a half, plus 110. So that's a pretty good price, you ask me. I think Minnesota comes out and takes it to them right from the start. Minnesota have won 9 of the last 10 between these clubs, and they've also, it's been the 2 games this year, it's 5-1 and 5-2. So they have kind of handled the Ducks no problem this year. Pressure on Minnesota, so that always has to come into play there. But I do like Minnesota to get this job done today somehow. So my play will be in the first period, though. As for the total, it's 5.5 over the high juice. Both teams have, like I mentioned, those games. Both games have gone over this season. Anaheim's been playing a bunch of overs. They're over 4 of their last 5. Minnesota, even you look at a Minnesota team, you always think, you maybe think under, but they've been over 7 of their last 10. If you get that 5, there's a 5.5 high juice out there on DraftKings. At least there was this morning. I know it's 6 everywhere for a lot of the markets as well. You might want to play 5.5 high juice, but to me, the play is going to be Minnesota for the first period on the puck line.
I like that, Buster. It's a good spot for, as you mentioned, the Buster special. It's a good spot for that to get off and running, to get out early and get going for this Wild team. As you mentioned, the price here is hefty. It's a tough price to deal with. It's a tough way to find something that you like in this game. When I was away, Buster, on my trip, and I thought it was such a great time for a vacation, because if you think about it, there are a ton of games that are very meaningless right now in the NHL, over the past week and a half while I was away. And then you get to come back, with the playoffs looming here in the next couple of days here coming up. So I didn't release that many plays to clients. And I made it pretty clear, hey, look, I'm not going to release that many plays. I think I could probably count on one hand how many hockey plays I released while I was away. And there's going to be certain times where you can bet two teams that aren't in the playoffs, but there's going to be certain times where you see a spot where it is two teams that one of them is fighting for a playoff spot, one of them is already out of the playoffs, and you say to yourself, you know what? This is one of those spots where I want to be on that team, or I want to find a way to make this team look good and bet on them that needs the win. And when you look at the fact that there's 1 point separating the St. Louis Blues and the Minnesota Wild, and one team has to play the Anaheim Ducks, and one team has to play Utah, that's a bit different. I think, especially right now with the way Utah's playing, those two teams are just a bit different. When I think at its core about the Minnesota Wild, about what I would describe to somebody what a good Minnesota Wild victory looks like, I would describe it to still be a defensive victory. So I'm a huge team totals guy. Usually I'm backing the offense for the team I expect to win. I don't necessarily love this price, not nearly as much as the one you're getting on the first period play. But I like the Ducks team total under 2.5 goals at -140. I'm not sure if this will be a client play or not. In full transparency, we will see about that. But when I think about the Wild and when I think about big games, I think about defense. When they played against the Sharks, they put up eight goals, sure. But when they beat the Stars, they beat them 3-2. When they beat the Canucks, they beat them 3-2. This is a team that at their whole, I believe, when they're playing their style of hockey, they're not allowing their opponent to get more than 2 goals. So the team total under 2.5, and keep in mind, -140, we can deal with that price because at the end of the day, like I said, we're going from a -280 to a -140. So at least we're getting the juice down quite a bit. Even though we've been trying to avoid those 140s and 50s during the season. But that's the way I want to go here. I'm not sure how many goals Minnesota scores. I do, back you up and like that first period play that you recommended. But I'm going to go with a defensive game here for the Wild and take them to keep Anaheim under the 2.5 team total there. It is interesting, Buster, how the schedule works out because you always hear fans saying, well, it's not fair that this team gets to play this team down the stretch. Or somebody will say, well, how does it fair that this team gets to play them and we have to play these guys? Well, bringing in the next game, the St. Louis Blues and the Utah Hockey Club. What are your thoughts here on this one? Because, of course, every team plays every team, especially in your division. You play the same teams a certain number of times. But I'll tell you what, if I'm Minnesota, I'm thankful that I'm playing the Ducks and I'm not playing Utah. That's for sure. What do you think about this matchup, Blues and Utah?
Yeah, Andrew, I think it's going to be a really good game. We always talk about that do or die, with teams. Well, St. Louis, if they lose, they're basically not dead yet. They're on life support. But they can still, it all depends on what Calgary does. But I'll tell you right now, this isn't going to be easy for St. Louis. There's no doubt about that. They've lost 3 straight games, and that's when they needed a win too. They do catch Utah in a brutal spot, playing their 3rd game in 4 nights. They just had a big offensive display last night, 7-3. But again, when St. Louis and Utah have played, Utah have won 2 out of the 3 games. And Utah have won 4 of their last 5 games. And truthfully, I want Utah to win here. I'm not betting them, but I want them to win because I'm still pissed about Saturday night when St. Louis had a 3-2 lead. They let Seattle right back in. They go to a shootout. They get the first 2 goals. Now, all Bennington has to do is save Capo. We win, all good. They go like 7 rounds and they lose and they only get that 1 point. So I'm a little of a type of a spiteful kind of person. And you know what? Yeah, I'll be cheering for Utah tonight for sure. Although I'm passing this game. I don't want no part of the side in this game. What I do want is to bet the over. You get 5.5 over at DraftKings. I've already gave it out to my clients. Utah have gone over the total in 5 of their last 6 games. St. Louis has gone over the total in 4 of their last 5. I got to believe Utah's going to play that same type of game. They've been just going all out, trying to score goals, getting those incentives for guys. I'm not sure what incentives are left for some of these guys, but there's usually always something there. So many assists, so many points, so many goals, whatever. So you can tell that Utah team's not playing any defense, and they're definitely not going to play any defense playing third game in 4 nights. I think St. Louis will, they're going to feel the pressure, but I think they're going to come out and they're at home, and they've been playing very good at home too. So I do see goals in this one, even though it's a playoff game for St. Louis. It's not for Utah. Utah's just going to go all out and try to beat them, and I hope they do. But for me, give me St. Louis, Utah over 5.5.
I like that play as well, Buster. It kind of makes me scratch my head a bit why we're getting the 5.5, just based on some of the games we've seen from the Blues where they've had a bunch of scoring take place. But I'm with you. And the funny thing is about this team with Utah, as you talk about, we might see some pond hockey with them. Utah ranks number 2 in April in expected goals for, but in expected goals against, they're the 6th worst team. So this team, they've been giving up goals. They're scoring goals. They're a team that you probably want to be betting overs with right now because, as you mentioned, we don't really talk about incentives that much in hockey. But, Clayton Keller and company and some of these key players, they're playing right till the end. But I'm not sure the defense has been overly sharp by any means. The only thing that people have been kind of wondering is, has the gas tank kind of run out for the St. Louis Blues? Have they kind of been running on fumes lately? Because they lose to the Kraken, they lose to the Oilers, they lose to the Jets, entering this one on a 3-game slide, and you just barely beat the Colorado Avalanche. A lot of these games for them have been really close. In fact, 5 of the last 6 games for this team have been 1-goal games, believe it or not. And that can be a little bit sketchy for a certain team. I think back to that game last Thursday for them, or 2 Thursdays ago, against the Pittsburgh Penguins. That one got really, really sweaty. This team seems to have the clutch gene, but they really like to make things sweaty, which means they're constantly keeping their team, their opponent, in the game. So I do like that over with you, but I might take the full game over, and I think I might also sprinkle a little bit as well, just on that plus 1.5 goals for Utah and the over 2.5 goals minus 130 for Utah. As we mentioned, Utah's playing with house money. Utah realized that they're out of the race at this point. It's just about playing for positioning at this point in the Western Conference. I have no issue with betting goals in this game. And, Buster, I'm not going to say it's the exact same, but part of me does compare the Canadiens and the Blues a little bit, because you look at these situations, if you think about it, both teams went on fire after the Four Nations tournament, and both teams have just recently lost 3 straight games. The Montreal Canadiens, of course, are sitting in a spot, but there's teams waiting to take them out of it, or Columbus. Do you compare these teams at all? And as you mentioned, talking about life support, they don't need this game, but this game's pretty damn important for St. Louis to just get this win.
Yeah, you know what, Andrew? I'll tell you, I do exactly compare these 2 teams because, and I have a really bad feeling one of them don't make it. And I'm hoping it's St. Louis, obviously, but just have that bad feeling. Like I said, last Thursday, Friday, when Carmine was going on about how Montreal's already in, and there's another thing too, when that rookie, that Dimidov, or however you say his name, from Montreal, that scored last night and everything. That it kind of, I have a bunch of other friends like yourself that are Montreal fans. And he talked about how he wanted to come over so he could play Ovechkin in the first round. My buddies were on the phone to me going, what the hell's going on here? How the hell can he say that? They're not even in the – and that's what old guys think. Like, that's how we think, right? You don't put you don't put the cart before the horse kind of deal. That's an old saying. So anyways, I think they're very similar. They came down, and it's pressure. right? It's all about pressure. And unfortunately, Montreal's got a young team. So, there's pressure there, and we'll see what's going to happen. I hope tomorrow when me and you are talking hockey that I've had a nice long sleep last night. Let's put it that
way. Yeah, I'll sleep a lot better. It's funny because when your team's not playing, you're just cheering against the team chasing them. Like, I'll be the biggest Philadelphia Flyers fan ever tonight. I'm going to have to go and buy a Philadelphia Flyers sweater. But let's keep the show going here, Buster. And you got to love how things set up sometimes. You feel like it's like a Hollywood script sometimes with the way these schedules end up working out. And I'm sure it's definitely planned that way. Let's talk about Calgary. Calgary and Vegas going head-to-head. Of course, Calgary sitting on 92 points. St. Louis sitting on 94. How do you feel about the state of the Calgary Flames right now?
Yeah, well, I have to tell you, I've been playing Calgary, and you know what? They've been playing some pretty decent hockey. I was actually shocked. This line opened up at Vegas like minus 130. I was really shocked about that. You know, it didn't last too long, but I mean, now Calgary, I believe, is 115, 110, something like that. But the NHL scheduler didn't do Vegas any favors at the end. Not that it matters to them because they're locked into the number 2 playoff spot, but they didn't do them any favors having to go on the road to play in Calgary, in Vancouver on a back-to-back to the end of the season. So that was kind of, you know, it's just one of those things that happens. Somebody has to play on those roads for that. Like I say, Vegas is already locked into that number 2 playoff spot in the West, and they basically only have the incentives to play for. You know, Vegas have owned this Calgary club, so that's a problem for Calgary tonight, I believe. They have owned them. They beat them 3-2 in overtime, 3-0, and 5-0. However, this is going to be a different Vegas club. There's no doubt about it. I don't think you're going to see Eichel or Petran or Olo at all. I don't think you see those guys. Might be other guys sit out last minute as well. And because of this, I actually like Calgary to win this game. I actually do think they're going to win this game. I think that they can even win their last game, and it'll be up to St. Louis and Minnesota to do what they have to do to make sure that they get into the playoffs. They do need both points here. You know, Calgary's been playing well, I said. They've won. Not one, but they've got a point in 7 of their last 8 games. So they're doing their job to be hanging around for this playoffs. So I do like Calgary tonight because I don't think Vegas will try as much as they might. You know what I mean? Although if you're a Calgary fan, you've got to be really nervous because Vegas has owned you this year. At 5.5, all 3 games this year, Andrew, they've all gone under 5.5. So, but the problem was that the 5.5, it's actually terrible value here because the totals of the 3 games that went under 6, 6.5, 6.5. So that's almost a full goal that it costs you, you know, to bet that under 5.5 if you're going to do that. So when I see stuff like that, that tells Buster to pass the total, and I will cheer for Calgary win tonight.
Well, we're reading the same notes here, Buster, because when I see a Vegas Golden Knights open up at minus 135 and the current price be what it is in this game, that tells me all I need to know about this game. And it makes me want to back the Calgary Flames. I think that this is a spot here where you get a more focused team versus a team that's ready to rock and roll for the playoffs. Yesterday, I know you guys covered the Oilers, or they covered on the show, Oilers and Kings, and it was a good example of, you know, one team that probably cared more about home ice than the other, it seemed like, because one team didn't dress the Stars nearly as much as the other. And I watched an interview with our former Canadian, Philip Deneau, and he said, yeah, they're trying to hurt us. These guys are literally trying to hurt us. They dress their B team. They're trying to just be physical. And I'm not saying that Vegas is dressing a B club tonight by any means, but I'm saying this game means a hell of a lot more to Calgary. And I said earlier in the show, must win doesn't mean will win, but you kind of need 2 teams to participate in this battle. And I think that Calgary is going to be locked in as they have been their last few games. I've been seeing some good things out of their offense. And I think Vegas, it's going to be a rare game for them here on the road where they show up, They play a decent hockey game, but they don't have their starting guys. They don't have Jack Eichel. They don't have Petro probably, and they're going to see a Calgary team score a couple goals and lock it down defensively. They've been getting good goaltending lately as well. I think it's important to look at the flip and look at some of the odds and look at the way things are moved. And when an overnight number does what it did in this game, it tells you all you have to know. So that will be my best bet for Puck Time today. My first show back in about a week and a half. It has been great to be back here on the show. I can't wait for playoffs, guys, but obviously I can't really get excited for playoffs until I know 100% who's in, and hopefully one particular team that Buster and I are both cheering for lands in there. But Calgary is my best bet here. I think they make things interesting. They spice things up in that Western Conference race, and I feel like they get going. So, guys, it's $5 Tuesday at WagerTalk. I'm going to be in action in MLB for that, but of course, all my NHL plays, playoff packages, and all that good stuff included over at WagerTalk.com. And despite only releasing a couple plays while I was away, still remaining number 2 since the start of the season at WagerTalk in the NHL. So having a good season. Low volume has been the name of the game, and it's helped me out quite a bit here. So go Calgary, go here, Buster, and hopefully they can pull it off here against the Vegas Golden Knights. But $5 Tuesday, best bets, all that good stuff. What do you have for us?
Okay, thank you, Andrew, and great season there. That's great to hear. Keep it up in the playoffs. WagerTalk has actually put out a great deal for us. We have, especially with the NHL playoffs coming up, and we've combined it with Major League Baseball. So when you buy our NHL playoff package, you get 30-day MLB pass absolutely free. So that's a great deal that they put out. Everyone knows me on here for Puck Time. I've been doing this show for years now, and they know me for my NHL. But we've had success in MLB throughout the years here. Last season, we were plus 45 units, and we are actually currently on a nice 4% best bet run, which goes back to last year, but we're 10-1 in our last 11 4% best bets. And that brings me to today, which is $5 Tuesday, as Andrew has mentioned. And we have we're going to try to increase that record to 11-1 with a 4% best bet in Major League Baseball that you can pick up for $5. So head on over to WagerTalk.com and check those great deals out. There's also other deals inside the $5 pick for all kinds of cappers, all kinds of great deals going on right now at WagerTalk.com. Our show play is going to be a game we actually talked a little bit about, and it was in the Columbus-Philadelphia game. I've been taking Columbus over for that first period for probably 2 or 3 games now. But Andrew, Columbus first period overs are now 10-1 the last 11 first period overs. And as I mentioned earlier, Philadelphia's at home. It's their last home game. And they've been playing way, way more offensively since Torts left, got let go there. It seems like they're a different club offensively. They're not hardly playing that much defense. They're not going to play much tonight with in front of the home fans. And like I say, Columbus has been really, playing overs. They've been winning games by scoring a lot of goals, which I know you have to score goals to beat teams. But, I really like that play. So we're going to take Philadelphia Columbus over 1.5 for the first period. And as always, everyone, best of luck with all your plays. MLB's going full swing now. NHL playoffs, can't wait for them to come up. That's for sure. And as always, have a great day. And Andrew, looks like I'll see you again tomorrow.
Looking forward to it as always, Buster. Love talking hockey with you. Guys, $5 Tuesday. Buster, myself, get all of our plays and packages as well as every other handicapper at WagerTalk.com. Do us a favor and smash that like button the same way the Flyers will smash the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight, as we hope at least. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, right here on Puck Time.